Okay. Right. Looks like we've got quite a lot of people streaming in now, so perfect opportunity to start. So good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. We're going to be talking about Core Web Vitals, so hopefully you've all tuned in to understand a little bit more about what they are and what it means to you. So Mike, Steve, and I have a lot of conversations with retailers and, well, not just retailers, to be honest, anyone with a web presence about Core Web Vitals. And what we're hearing is that there are a lot of people that are really interested in the metrics, but at this stage, some don't really fully understand what the metrics are and what it means to them. We know from experience talking to some people that it's a bit of a mixed bag in terms of how they approach them, what they understand from them. It can be difficult talking to stakeholders about Core Web Vitals as well, particularly if they don't really understand the numbers or they're not exactly stellar in the first place. We speak to some clients that look at them intermittently and they're not really too sure how that they can positively influence the numbers. And we even speak to some people that just generally don't even look at them at all. So as I say, it's a real mixed bag. So we thought it'd be a really good opportunity for us at Spike just to try and dispel some of the myths and talk a little bit and talk openly a little bit more about Core Web Vitals, what they are and what they mean to you. So luckily we've got Mike on hand today. He's going to run through a number of slides going through Core Web Vitals and hopefully that'll give you a bit more of an insight and help you get to grips with them and what the numbers are telling you. The Q&A functionality is set on the webinar, so if you do have any questions, please pop them in there and then we can answer them. There will be some time at the end for Q&A and we'll try and get through as many of them at the end as we can, see how time allows. So Mike, can I hand over to you, please?
Yeah, cheers, Daryl. So yeah, for those of you that don't know me, I'm Mike Forshaw. I'm the head of performance testing at Spike. And yeah, just echoing what Daryl said, thanks for taking a bit of time out of your day to listen to this talk. Don't want to keep you too long, so with that in mind, let's dive straight in. Start off, we'll have a little quick look at what we're going to cover today. So obviously, what are Core Web Vitals, why do they matter, and the measurements that they include, how you can capture those measurements. Then we're going to move to the Web Vitals loop, what we like to call the Web Vitals loop. More detail on that obviously to come. The difference between Core Web Vitals and page speed, because they are very, very similar, but also quite different. Field versus lab, so that's the different ways of collecting the metrics. RUM, which is real user monitoring, so actually capturing live users' data, which is you will come to see later on in the webinar is a very, very beneficial tool. And then finishing off, we'll be looking at the actual ROI, why we do it, what's the return on investment, with ensuring that your Core Web Vitals are good, and then some real world examples to finish, and then any questions that you popped into the chat. If we can't answer them immediately, we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So let's move on. So what are Core Web Vitals? Basically, in a nutshell, it's a set of 3 measurements that Google considers to be really important when considering the user's experience of a web page. They focus on 3 key aspects of the page. It's loading time, the time it takes for it to become interactive for the users, so when they can actually start using it, and its visual stability. Now, I'll go into more detail on all 3 of these further on in the webinar, but basically it's a tool used to determine the quality of the user experience on any particular website. Why do they matter? So firstly, improve user experience. It's absolutely vital. Fast loading times, smooth interactions, and stable visuals all are vital, and they contribute to an enjoyable experience for the users on your site. If the users are happy, if they're enjoying using the website, if they're seeing it working as it should, that potentially leads to much lower bounce rates, higher engagement, and increased conversions, which obviously for a retail industry is absolutely vital. SEO benefits, search engine optimization. Your core Web Vitals score has a major impact where you appear on the Google search rankings. So obviously, I don't know how you guys use Google, but certainly myself, I very rarely get onto page 2. I hardly ever get halfway down page 1. So having that good ranking, appearing at the top of searches, is really, really important. Again, especially for websites such as retail websites that directly drive your revenue. Happier visitors. Again, due to technology nowadays, really quick broadband, really powerful computing, cloud computing, etc. People are impatient. So if you go on a website and you don't immediately see some sort of response, there's a good chance you'll either consider that it's not working correctly and leave, or just become impatient and leave. Future proofing, yeah, a little bit cryptic, this one, but core Web Vitals are likely to become even more important in the future as Google is prioritizing user experience. So they're not something you can fix immediately. Again, I'll go into more detail on that later. But if you can prioritize them now and set yourself up for a constant loop of fix and deploy, then you're gonna set yourself into a really good position in the future. As I say, it's not a quick fix. And then the impact, the bigger picture. So the impact, what's called the overall page experience. I'm not sure how many of you saw it, but quite recently we did a webinar on page speed. So by all means, feel free to look back at that. It'll be under the Spike posts on LinkedIn. But Core Web Vitals are part of that bigger page experience, and Google considers those when ranking websites. So by ensuring that you've got optimized Core Web Vitals, you are investing in a high quality experience for your visitors, which is, I'm sure we can all agree, is what we're aiming for. Okay, so let's have a little look at the measurements. As I stated, there are 3 key measurements, and they're all given a score and basically a pass or fail. So we have LCP, which is largest contentful paint. IMP, this is very recently changed, so a lot of the information you'll find on the website at the minute will refer to FID, but that has been replaced with IMP, which is interaction to next paint. And then CLS, which is cumulative layout shift. So we start by looking at largest contentful paint. This is a real key metric because it marks the point that the website it marks the point when the website's main content has likely been loaded. So the quicker this happens, the more reassured the users will be that the page is working as it should be and will soon be useful for them. Therefore, they're going to be much less likely to leave that page. As I mentioned earlier, that they're very impatient. So it's important to present something to the user almost immediately, even though they may not necessarily be able to do anything at that time. If they can see things are happening, that they're likely to hang around. Interaction to next paint. So this is basically the latency between the user's interactions that they make, such as a mouse click, tapping on the screen of their iPads or other tablets, or keyboard inputs. So it's the time taken from those interactions to actually seeing something has happened. So they move their mouse, they see the pointer has moved, they click on a link, they see that click has been actioned and stuff is happening. So that's the interaction to next paint, next action, if you like. And a low IMP means that the page was consistently able to respond to all, or if not all, of the vast majority of those user actions, because all those individual user actions from all the users to that website are all grouped together in one overall score, which is the IMP score. So that the better that is, the more responsive your website is. CLS, this is a bit of a funny one. It's one that I'm sure you're all quite familiar with without really even knowing about it. So a good example is if you're buying something from a website, you've added it to your basket, you're really familiar with the process. So you've added it to your basket, you've gone to your basket, you've gone to click submit or buy now. And then just as you click that, the page shifts a little bit and you actually click back or cancel order. It's basically the page is shifted, resulting in you clicking in something that you didn't necessarily want to click in. It's quite frustrating. It can happen for a number of reasons, such as basically not specifying width and height attributes for your images. So the page doesn't exactly know what's happening. Then all of a sudden your image appears and it shifts everything else on your page. Dynamically added content, injected content, such as adverts on your page that change regularly, pop-ups, various different banners. If you're not reserving the relevant space for those on your page, when they eventually appear, it causes everything to shift, which is, again, very frustrating for a user, especially on mobile devices where, space is quite small and you're using your fingers, which aren't, exactly super accurate. It's really important that your CLS is performing well, or else, again, you're going to get frustrated users who may not hang around. So how do we measure these three core web vitals? The most common way, the way that I'm sure you've all seen, is Google PageSpeed Insights. This is something you can all look at again. I refer back to my earlier webinar that I did a few months back. We go into more detail about that. But if you go to PageSpeed, I think it's pagespeed.web.dev, you can plug in the URL to any web page you like, and it'll run a comprehensive report. And as part of that report, you will get your core web vitals score. This is based on lab data, which is data in a controlled environment, and field data, so you get a really comprehensive overview of that page's performance. Google Lighthouse, again, another tool that I'm sure if you're a developer or a tester, you've used it. It's an open source automated tool that is built into Chrome DevTools. It basically audits your web pages for performance, accessibility, SEO, the all-important SEO, and it measures core web vitals and your other metrics to help your developers and your testers improve that user experience. It's a very well-known, commonly used tool. Maybe one that's not quite as well known, but is certainly equally as good, is the Web Vitals Chrome extension. So this is an extension that you can add to your browser, and as you're working and adding, developing new parts to your website, it's providing you with immediate feedback on the performance as you browse and develop those web pages. So it's a really handy little extension to get your dev team using. It just underlines that, let's concentrate on making sure these things are working as they should do, because as I said earlier, and as I'm about to go into in more detail, these aren't quick fixes. You can't immediately improve your core web vitals. And then finally, your real user monitoring, your run tools. There are several, New Relic, App Dynamics. So these tools sit there and they basically collect data from your actual users that are interacting with your website, capturing the metrics in real world scenarios, if you like. So giving you really excellent insights in how your site is performing across all the different devices and the different environments. People coming in from their home broadband, people coming in from coffee shops, over slower Wi-Fi, people using 4G, 5G, that type of thing. So the real user monitoring tools are so important. Moving on. So yeah, this is an interesting slide, the Web Vitals loop. But before I break that down, I just want to go into what I have been mentioning a few times, how you should consider implementing your core Web Vitals testing, because as I've said, it's not a quick fix. You can't find an issue, fix it and publish it, and then immediately expect your core Web Vitals to be improved and to pass, basically, because it doesn't work like that. It works on a 28-day aggregate, so it's not just the last results that's important, it's the ongoing results. So it's a really good idea to consider putting this into your CI/CD pipelines. It's an ongoing process. It can give you the confidence or highlight any issues before they basically start to affect your score. So there's cons involved in that you can't immediately fix them, but there's also pros, whereas if you keep on top of it and you discover an issue, you can fix that quickly before it starts to affect your scores and all the various knock-on effects that will lead to. So let's jump into the loop. Step one, evaluate the website. Fairly obvious, really. So it's best to start with that field data, that run data, to evaluate your website's health. So use your page speeds insights that I mentioned earlier to view your overall core Web Vitals. There's a search console that you can also use, and that can drill down into specific areas of the website that you may realize they do need improvement, and you need to be more granular on those particular pages. One little caveat though, you can only run the search console on domains that you own, so you can't like have a little play around and think, oh, I'll go and see how Spike's website is doing, because you've got to have the permissions to be able to run that search console. And if you do have that run data, it's best to be able to identify those particular places on the page where there's issues with high traffic segments, etc., that only come along, that they're not always there. There might be a sale and you get a big hit of users coming onto the website. The run data helps you identify that, whereas the lab data may not necessarily do that. So then once you've evaluated, it's time to start to debug and try and tune the website, if you like, optimize the website. So as I say, in step one, you should have identified pages. Sorry, someone at my door. Should have identified pages which require those performance improvements. And you can also narrow down which, if not all, of the core Web Vitals metrics you want to improve. You can then go into the Google tooling to get further information, to understand the root cause, to identify the issue. So, for example, you may want to run a Lighthouse audit to get page level guidance. Use the Web Vitals extension to analyze the core Web Vitals in real time. This is the stuff I was mentioning before that's really handy for your dev team. Or again, use the performance panel in Chrome DevTools to debug the performance issues and test the code changes. Underlying the fact that we're always looking for areas for improvement. It's not just a fix and forget. So once you've done A and B, as I say, people may think that's great. I've identified what's wrong. I've fixed what's wrong. Now I'm done. But again, going back to the 20-day, 28-day aggregation, you need to ensure that any issues you've found and then fixed don't start reoccurring. After a while, things will start to slip back in. I think there's I'm not exactly sure what the stat is, but it's something like within 30 days, any fixes you implement will start to break down again, and you'll start to see your core Web Vitals measurements slipping towards the worst scale, if you like. So it really is important that you monitor this field data regularly, make it an ongoing process, bake it into your release pipelines, then you're confident that you're staying on top of any issues that you may have, and you're making sure that you're getting the absolute best out of your websites. Even more, as I said before, even more important for websites that directly drive your revenue, retail websites, etc. Core Web Vitals versus page speed. What are the differences? Again, I said that they're very closely linked, but they are slightly different. Core Web Vitals focus on 3 key user experience, as I mentioned: largest contentful paint, interaction to next paint, and cumulative layout shift. They're very user experience focused, so measuring loading, performance, interactivity, visual stability, everything that's directly impacting the user's satisfaction. And there's a heavy emphasis on the field data. All the data that's captured for your Core Web Vitals when you run it on the web.dev website is taken from actual field data, so you've got confidence that the results it's showing are 100% correct. And then again, it's directly used, and your Core Web Vitals are directly used for your SEO ranking, which are, you know, they're so important to you. It's if your website's not appearing at the top of searches, is it even worth having, you may ask? Certainly not if it's on page 2 or 3. You're not going to get very many visitors. So yeah, page speed insights. It's a more comprehensive tool. It offers a much broader performance analysis. So as well as including Core Web Vitals and other metrics, as well as including Core Web Vitals, it includes other metrics such as I don't know, time to interactive, total blocking time, that type of thing. It doesn't just use field data, it includes lab data as well. So simulated tests and real tests for a more detailed performance assessment, if you like. It also offers you recommendations on how to fix or improve any of the areas that your website is you know, not performing quite as well as it should do. So it's quite handy to have. You know, if you've not run them on your own website, I suggest that you do so, because it will give you, if there are issues, it will give you some, you know, clear indications of exactly what the issues are and how you can resolve those issues. And it's got there's a broader scope. It covers additional aspects of the performance beyond just your Core Web Vitals, such as your resource loading and your overall site speed, etc. So let's just take a little closer look at real user monitoring. I have explained a little bit about what it is, but you know, you can't know too much about it really, especially when it comes to Core Web Vitals, because it is you know, a vital way of capturing that real user experience. So basically, it's a performance monitoring process that collects detailed data about real users' interactions with an application. So a user session, for those of you that may not be aware, is basically a sequence of actions a user takes while working on an application, whilst being on your website, and one user can be very, very different to another. I don't know, maybe one user may fill in a form, click multiple buttons, upload a file. Another may just click several different buttons, not upload a file, but they're all valid sessions within your infrastructure, if you like. So with real user monitoring, you can collect all that data on each user action within a session, including, this is the important bit, including the time required to complete the action. So that then enables you to identify clear patterns and see you know, see the areas where you can make those improvements. It's much better than, well, not much better, but they're both important, but it's, you know, it gives you a better picture of what the users are actually doing, and that at the end of the day, that's what you need to concentrate on, because lab tests are all well and good, and they will highlight issues, but they may not highlight the issues that, actual real users will highlight. There's lots of tools out there to capture this run data, but some of the more popular ones, Google Analytics, so that Google Analytics provides insights into user behavior, including things such as page load times, bounce rates, session durations. You can enhance it with various different plugins to capture more detailed performance metrics. So it's it's obviously going to be a good tool. It's Google's, and they're the ones that produce all the core metrics and the core vitals and the page speed metrics, etc. New Relic, again, it's a well-known tool. It offers a really comprehensive suite of performance monitoring tools, including RUM. It captures your user interactions, your application performance, your infrastructure health. So it's really handy to identify any bottlenecks that you may have within your system in order to help you optimize that performance. And then again, Dynatrace, I'm sure we've all heard of that. This Dynatrace provides, again, advanced RUM capabilities, real-time monitoring of user sessions, detailed performance analytics, and some AI insights as well, which are interesting, and they help to predict and resolve. Well, they hopefully help you to predict and resolve any performance issues before they actually start to impact your users. So yeah, some of the benefits of RUM, I've already mentioned quite a few of them, but they give you real good insights into the real world user experiences. They provide a clear picture of how the users are using your website, capturing the variability and conditions, such as the network speeds, the device types they're using, iPhones, tablets, desktops, that type of thing, and the different user behaviors. And if you can use these metrics and understand them, then you can make some really good informed decisions about where to focus your optimization efforts. Highlight the areas that you need to improve and concentrate specifically on those. Identifying and prioritizing performance issues. So again, certain bottlenecks and issues may not be evident in lab tests, as I just mentioned. Slow load times, higher rates in specific regions maybe, or poor responsiveness during peak usage times. We're a performance testing consultancy, so we know all about the issues that Black Friday can lead to and that type of thing. So if you're actively monitoring these with real user monitoring tools, you can identify and fix the potential problems before they have that significant impact on your users. And then you can use RUM to continuously monitor your performance. So again, as I mentioned earlier, you should be considering integrating this into your performance monitoring strategy, because the continuous data collection will help you track performance trends over time and identify the new issues as they arise. If you're looking at a set of trends and all of a sudden you see differences, then you can get on top of them quite quickly. And regularly analysing the RUM data allows your teams to identify areas for improvement, validate the impact of those optimizations. So it is an iterative process, as I've already stated, and it's really important to ensure that your website remains performant as the user behaviors change and as the technologies evolve. As we all know, it's changing on a day-to-day basis. So as I mentioned, an initial round of optimizations, a business may notice through RUM that performance reappears during peak traffic periods. This would then obviously prompt further investigation and targeted improvements to handle that high traffic more efficiently. So yeah, mentioning Rum quite a lot and talking about how good it is, but let's not forget the in the field, in the lab testing. So we'll have a little look at the pros and cons of each. Lab data, as mentioned, this is testing in a controlled environment. So collecting your metrics in a controlled, simulated environment using standardized tools such as Google Lighthouse, web page tests. There are advantages. There's, the control conditions eliminate any variables, providing a consistent benchmark, which is, very important. They're ideal for diagnosing specific issues with granular detailed data, and really useful for pre-deployment testing and ongoing optimization. So, when any new stuff is going in there, you can run tests, you can compare it to what you've already seen, and it'll quickly highlight any potential issues that may have arisen. Excuse me. There are limitations, though. Obviously, they don't account for real world conditions such as network speed, variations, the different device types, the different user behaviors, and they won't fully capture the user experience due to the absence of those diverse real world scenarios. It's all controlled within the lab. You're not getting the really realistic experience. So field data, as I've mentioned, it's collected from actual users interacting with the website in real world conditions. So the advantages are pretty obvious, really. It reflects those real user experiences, the various network conditions, the devices, the user behaviors. It provides insights into how the different segments of the users experience the website. So those on iPhones may be seeing very different results to those coming in from desktops, those coming in from tablets. So it really helps to identify those issues that may occur under specific conditions that lab tests could certainly miss. Again, though, that there are limitations to the run data. The data that's captured can be more variable. Obviously, that it's a much larger set of data coming in, so it can be harder to control and harder to pinpoint specific issues. And then, in order to, it sounds obvious, but in order to use run data, you need a live site with actual traffic to collect that meaningful data. So again, going back to SEO, if you're not getting much traffic throughout to your website, then the run data that you are getting isn't going to be hugely beneficial. So there's a bit of a balancing act to get those ideal results, which is why you should consider both approaches. Use your lab data for internal performance benchmarks and detailed diagnostics. Use the field data to validate your lab findings, so to speak, and to understand those real world impacts. You can do one without the other. That doing one is better than doing none, but you will see that the benefits a lot greater if you can look at both ways of capturing those metrics. Moving on, so I talked a lot about why you should do it and how you can do it and the various different tools and what have you, but what do you actually get from it? What's the return on investment from improving these core web vitals? Let me start with a little stat. You may have seen it before. It is quite a common stat, but Google did an examination, a really in-depth examination a while back of 11 million mobile landing pages across 213 countries, and it revealed a whole load of mobile websites did not meet user expectations. Now, again, just plugging an earlier webinar we did, this is something that we noticed in our data. So by all means, go back and have a look at the mobile, not neglect, but the way that the concentration on mobile traffic, if you like, isn't as high as it should be. And this survey underlined that the longer it took for a page to load, the higher the chance the user leaving without taking any action. Which is, it's an obvious statement, but it's a real killer for companies. If that person's going in on the phone and they don't see something, almost immediately they'll, as I said earlier, they'll assume something is wrong and they'll leave the site. And this survey showed that results in a big drop in conversion, and sometimes that's as high as 95%. So it's almost a complete loss, which isn't great. So yeah, going back to some of the benefits, the ROI, increased conversion rates, faster loading pages tend to keep users engaged. As I say, if they see something's happening, they'll hang around, reducing the bounce rates and increasing the likelihood of those conversions. And the famous Amazon stat showed that for every 100 milliseconds of latency, it cost them 1% in sales. Excuse me, sounds like a small figure, but if you convert it to actual pounds, it's not. They're really big figures. So it's easy to gain that little bit of time back, and it will massively, well, not massively, but potentially increase your sales significantly. Again, the enhanced user experience and satisfaction that users expect a fast and error-free browsing experience. Websites that meet these expectations, they do have higher customer satisfaction and retention rates. And again, Google reports that users are 24% less likely to abandon a site that meets the recommended Core Web Vitals threshold. So basically, that's saying that if your Core Web Vitals are passing, you're going to lessen the risk of more than 25% of your, more than 24% of your users leaving the website. So that's a huge amount of traffic that you are guaranteeing stays with you rather than leaves and goes somewhere else. And then another one that's potentially not one that people consider, it reduces your operational costs. So if your website is running efficiently, then you don't need it lessens the need for the extra server resources and the associated costs with those. As we know, lots of us have our compute running in the cloud now, and if we need more of it, it just gets automatically provided, which is great. But that comes at a cost, which isn't great. So if you can make your websites more efficient, there's less need for that extra processing power, and therefore you get lower costs. By optimizing that web performance, companies can handle more traffic with the same infrastructure. So effectively you're getting more bang for your buck, if you like. And then again, going back to the SEO. A high-ranking website is vital for a company's success. It results in a larger number of having the good Core Web Vitals results in a larger number of page visits. And as already mentioned, Google uses Core Web Vitals as a ranking factor. So better performing websites are likely to rank higher in the results. So it's a constant circle of improvement. Your website's better, you have more users, you get better Core Web Vitals scores, you rank higher, therefore more users come to you, and it just carries on going. It's a big snowball effect. Okay, so I've told you all this. Let's have a look at a few real world examples of where big companies, Vodafone being the first one, have seen real benefits of improving their Core Web Vitals. So Vodafone wanted to improve the performance of the website. They found that their largest contentful paint metric was too slow, which meant that the main content of the page was taking too long to load, which had a negative impact on the user experience. As I say, users are impatient. They don't see something pretty quick that they'll go elsewhere. So Vodafone invested in this, that they improved the LCP by 31%, and this in turn led to an 8% increase in sales, a 10% increase in the organic search traffic, 5% increase in conversion rate, and a 2% decrease in bounce rate. I mean, you know, the stats say all, an 8% sales increase by improving just one of the elements in Core Web Vitals is, you know, it's how can you not be impressed by that? Swappy, if you don't know who Swappy are, they are a company that specialises in the sale of refurbished mobile phones. For a considerable period of time, their focus was primarily involved on improving the functionality of the website rather than the site performance as well. And then they realised that their income coming in from mobile users, if you like, users accessing their website on the mobile, going back to the stuff that I mentioned earlier, it was massively lagging behind the desktop part of the site. So they spent some time looking into this, and they then made the decision to prioritize the enhancement of Core Web Vitals, which led to an increase in 42% mobile revenue. Their LCP, they improved it by 55%. The CLS improved by 91%. Again, it's so vital on the smaller devices. And the FID, which was, you know, the metric at the time that has now been replaced by IMP, that improved by 90%. So huge increases. That they were neglecting this. They were concentrating solely on the functional aspect, which is fine. You've got to do that, but you've also got to consider the overall performance. Who's next? eBay. So yeah, massive company. They launched a company-wide program, basically looking at highlighting the information that appears what's called above the fold. So it's the stuff that you see immediately when you go onto a web page before you have to scroll down to see that, you know, the remaining stuff that they want to concentrate purely on the above the fold stuff. So as well as the Core Web Vitals, they concentrated on other measurements, page speed measurements such as time to first byte and time to above the fold. That they wanted to improve those. Those optimizations were only achievable if you know, specific sections of the user experience were eliminated. So by concentrating on that, they saw a 0.5% increase in the add to cart count. Doesn't sound a lot, but as again, when you convert it to actual pounds and pennies, it is a lot. You know, it's a massive amount really, especially for companies like eBay. They also increased their page load speed by 12% as a direct cutback on information display. Well, not due to certain cutbacks and improvements to the data that's displayed above the fold. And as I say, that resulted in a 0.5 increase in add to cart clicks. With the traffic they get on their website, that's a lot of clicks. And then Renault, the car manufacturer, huge manufacturer, they've got presence in over 130 countries. And in order to improve their user engagement and conversions, they took steps to improve the Core Web Vitals, again, largest contentful paint, by reducing that measurement, by making it quicker. They took 1 second off that, and that led to 14% fewer people leaving the website, which again is, you know, it's a massive figure. As I said, if users see something happening, that they believe that pretty soon they're going to be able to get what they want from the website, so they will hang around. And that led to a 13% increase in conversion. And you know, considering that these people that Renault are selling cars, the fact that they would lose that conversion if the LCP was 1 second slower is quite staggering, because you would think that someone knows they want to buy a car, that they're not bothered if the website takes a little bit longer to load, because they've already made that decision for that large investment. But this has proven otherwise. Just that 1 second improvement has led to a massive increase in conversion. So, some conclusions. What do we get out of Core Web Vitals? What are the main things that it helps us with? It boosts conversion rates. Faster, more responsive websites, they lead to higher conversion rates, which in turn directly increases sales and revenue. They enhance the customer experience, reduce the bounce rates, increases the customer satisfaction, which that can lead to customer loyalty. And if you can get loyal customers, then you're in a really good place. Think of Apple for etc. They could release a new phone tomorrow, and even if it was slightly worse than the existing phone, people would still go out and buy it just because of that loyalty. And it just so happens that the Apple website is one of the best performing on the internet, mobile and desktop. It's one of the few that we found in our earlier webinar that concentrated just as much on the mobile side of things as the desktop side of things. And the other one, you won't be surprised to hear, is Amazon. So that goes to show that they know what they're doing, and that's one of the reasons that they're so incredibly successful. Optimizes the SEO rankings, so better Core Vitals improves your search engine rankings, which in turn drives that more organic traffic to your site, which is what everybody wants. Reduces the operational costs, efficient performing web pages, websites, reduces the server load and the associated costs, and it therefore maximizes your infrastructure efficiency, and then you gain that competitive advantage. So this is vital. If you can have Core Web Vitals that are performing really well, and that can give you especially retailers, an edge over their competitors who might have slower, less responsive websites. Then there's only going to be one winner there. It's a really, really important thing to have. So I think that brings us to the end. Thanks, bang on the hour actually. Possibly waffled on a little bit too much, but nevertheless, thank you all for listening. Any questions come in at all, Darryl, that we can pick up straight away?
Yeah, there's a couple. Yeah, I mean, firstly, fantastic. Thank you, Mike. Really enjoyed that session, really informative. And although we see numbers like that all the time, there's a clear correlation between Web Vitals, page speed, conversion, customer satisfaction, and exactly like you mentioned, big items like cars and figures like 8% might not sound absolutely mind-boggling, but if you think 8% of what Vodafone, what their annual turnover is, yeah, they are big numbers. One of the questions that came in was around disconnects between IT and the business. So you can put a lot of good practices in, you can follow all of these amazing disciplines to get a handle on page speed and Core Web Vitals. But what about, do we have any advice where we've seen situations where the business side have some access to make changes on the fly with large hero content, monotape type banners and things that can get added in ad hoc? Have you seen anything like that, or would you offer any advice other than don't do it?
Well, yeah, don't do it. No, well, this is where I was saying that the fact that the results are aggregated over 28 days, if you're constantly monitoring your Core Web Vitals and something like that does happen, a developer forgets to compress an image before it goes on, or there's a big banner, a big advert on the website, you'll pick it up immediately and you can correct it before it has the impact on the users, and then the company, if you like. So it's that's why it's in my opinion, in our opinion, it's a vital thing to consider baking into your release pipelines, assuming that you have them, and then you can keep that the test running automatically. It doesn't need any manual intervention. You can set it to run. doesn't necessarily have to be the run user data. You can set it to run a page speed test as part of the deployment lifecycle, and that will take away those risks.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Good advice. Thanks, Mike. Okay, no other questions coming in. So again, just on echo exactly what Mike said on behalf of us and everybody else at Spike. Thank you for taking the time to join us today. I hope you've got plenty out of all of the content that Mike's walked you through. Always offer of help and support from us if there's any questions offline. If you want to organise a coffee or a chat or something like that, we're always willing to see if we can provide any help, support and guidance. So yeah, please do get in touch if there's anything that Mike's covered today that you'd like to talk through further. So thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your days, enjoy the rest of your weeks, and yeah, we'll see you on the next one. Thank you.
Thanks all.